to another video. Today I'm back in China from my art show that I had in Japan, and now I'm back here again, just starting relaxing and whatnot. So going back and forth from China to Japan, I've noticed lots of differences, and I've noticed lots of similarities between China and Japan. Of course, going back and forth between two countries, I can't really say which one is my favorite because they both have different things that you could like about it, different things that you might not really appreciate from both countries. But I would say generally that China and Japan are by far probably my, favorite places to be at the moment. And so today I'm just going to talk a little bit about the difference between China and Japan from my point of view. And I also will be discussing many other things that I have seen, done, etc., up to date topics and whatnot. Now, I also want to say this: if you're watching this video, please comment, please like, share, subscribe, share this channel. Right now, I'm at 594 subscribers. Yes, 594 subscribers. And yes, I see you too, Triple OG. So, 94. So, I'm almost at 600. So, it's your duty, guys, to go out there and get that 600. Of course, I will congratulate every single one of you guys when I do make it. But back to what I was talking about. So, recently just came back from my art show. I will say this is that it was an amazing show. I'm thankful for all the people that came. I'm thankful for everyone who showed up and supported me in my first art show with what's up, Donald? My first art show in Japan with my artist that I collaborate with. If you haven't seen the video, you can check it out on my YouTube channel. It's the Tamagawa Radio art show video. So far, it's been getting pretty good comments, pretty good likes on that. And I would say that though I only saw one piece of art, but I would say that it doesn't matter really, because for me, I just needed an opening. I just needed a gateway for me to get more further exposure as an artist in Japan, and further doing more work there and collaborate more artists and more people there. And the fact that I'm doing art and getting more exposure in Asia is a wonderful thing. It's an amazing thing. So you're probably wondering, which countries do I like the best, China or Japan? Like I said before, I like both because they both have different things that I like. For one, I like China simply because of transportation. I think China beats Japan a little bit in terms of convenience when it comes to transportation. When it comes to I literally live right across from a bus stop. In Japan, it's quite of a rush. I always feel like I'm always in a rush, try to catch one train to another. Maybe because the way the subway systems are routed out. Also, I have to bear in mind that the city I live in, China, there isn't really a subway system. So, it's quite the only way you could transport is to taxi or to bus or by bike. In Japan, it's not like that. What I like about Japan versus China is the cleanliness and how everything is so clean and so neat in Japan. And especially like the way the buildings are built and the way everything looks nice. Japan looks more aesthetically pleasing. It looks more cleaner. Streets are more organized. Streets are much cleaner. While in China, it's some streets are cleaner than others. Some cities in China is a lot different. I still feel like China has a lot of ways to go of making their streets cleaner. One thing I would say, somebody asked about technology. Actually, to believe it or not, there's not much of a difference between China and Japan technology. If anything else, China is starting to lead the way in terms of technology. Um, if you, by contrary belief, most of all of Japan's technology is manufactured in China or other parts of Asia. Uh, but Japan is still kind of like the helm, still kind of like the gateway, the leader of technology. But right now, they're slowly getting taken over by the Chinese. As of right now, China is really slowly growing. No, they're actually not slowing. They actually are growing in phenomenal ways, despite their economy slowing down. I think in 10 years from now, China will be what Japan was in the '80s in terms of innovative and technology. But Japan still has China beat in many things, such as arts and creativity, fashion. Uh, Majority of artists that do make it in Asia tend to make it from Japan and Tokyo. And actually, a lot of Chinese who u- use their money go to Japan to buy art and technology. So there is a kind of like we need China, we need Japan kind of thing. China needs Japan, Japan needs China in order to exchange cultural ideas, just like it has been for centuries. Despite tensions, despite a troubled history between China and Japan, I feel like China definitely needs to work much harder with other Asian nations for it to have sustainability and make other people around the world feel like, okay, China is definitely doing its thing in terms of what it's trying to achieve. Another thing I would say, China versus Japan in comparison, is cost of living. Japan is generally more expensive to live than China. I actually know a teacher firsthand who lives in Japan who's actually coming back to China because of cost of living. Especially Tokyo is probably actually one of the most expensive cities in the world besides Hong Kong and New York, and I think some and California too. Those places, Tokyo is very expensive. The fortunate thing about teaching and working in China is that the amount of money I make, I can go to Japan and actually have a good time. But if I was making the same kind of pay in China and Japan, it'd be a lot harder for me to live because you have to understand you have transportation, you have to take the train everywhere. Buses is not cheap. Food, it could be quite expensive unless you eat at 7-Eleven all day. And I mean, sometimes we don't want to eat 7-Eleven all the time. We want to eat, you know. Though, of course, just like anywhere else, you always want to just buy groceries or buy store bought things rather than just eat out all the time. So cost of living is a lot different. Maybe later on I would do a detailed video between the two countries because it'd be more clear and more comprehensive. But for what my experience is, Japan is a lot more expensive than China. But if you work in China and like have good salary and save and do what you got to do responsibly, you can come to Japan for weeks on end or months or a month or so and have a good time. Just bear in mind that it's they might put a dent in your pocket once you leave. Another thing between China and Japan is I don't know, cultural differences. Actually, believe it or not, Japan is more submersed in tradition than China is. China, I mean, even though China is all deep into their traditions, Japan's tend to be more deep in their traditions as a whole, especially with religion. Japan is by far probably the most. I don't know. I don't know if I could be wrong, but it's more religious than China. China is not. I mean, China is actually growing now in terms of Christianity, and the Christian community is growing bigger, bigger every day in China, despite issues, despite conflicts, despite suppression. But Japan is more religious, more deeper in tradition than China is. Everywhere you go, there's a temple, and everywhere you go, there's Buddhist monks. There's even in like cities, there's still like in urban cities. There's you can feel you can feel how deep in religion and deep in cultural they are with their roots compared to China. China's kind of like destroying and rebuilding new, to the point where you don't really know how deep tradition and as deep traditional are the Chinese, even though Chinese people are. Um, the city I live right now is called Wenzhou, and the province I live is in Zhejiang province, which is the capital of that province is Hangzhou, where the president of China lives. That's another thing difference between China and Japan is the sizes, the size of the country. China is more bigger than China. I mean Japan. China is more bigger than Japan, and Japan's a lot smaller. Who has better art shows? Japan is, to be honest with you, Japan actually has more of a cultural. I think they're more in depth with the art. I mean, we all know as Western been the leader. I mean, you have anime, you have manga, music, fashion. I mean, probably the most famous of all fashions, especially in hip hop. Hip hop's always, reference Japanese art and Japanese culture. Even famous jazz musicians, John Coltrane, they all are praised in Japan. They have always been the epicenter for a lot of artists who go there for creativity and collab with others. China is not really the place right now. I mean, yeah, you have Shanghai, Beijing, but even I feel like my type of work would never really make it in China yet because it's still kind of new. And China has a history of creativity being kind of like, squashed down. It has to go underground. The only way I can make it as an artist in China if I do like Chinese traditional painting or photography, which is no big deal. I can do photography works here. I can show my photography work because I have plenty of work. But Japan, for me, in Hong Kong is still kind of also a challenge as well. Even though Hong Kong, you would think that, oh, Hong Kong is also like more open-minded and all that, it's still also tied in with Chinese sensibilities. So it's a lot difficult. I feel like the only way for you to make it as an artist in China is that, oh, I did a show in Tokyo. Because Chinese people are all about what have you done? Not like, oh, you done this. Like, you can do that. That's great. But what have you achieved? They were, oh, you did a show in Tokyo. It's all about the status. Chinese people are always about social status. Oh, you're a businessman. You make millions of dollars. Cool, we will work with you. Or versus, oh, you just some guy who just never had a day in his life, never worked a day in his life. What can we do for you? And so for me, I aim for Japan as an artist because I feel like if I can make it there, or if I can have an opening and I can like start doing work, get to know people, establish a lot of things there. If I do a show in China, Shanghai, Beijing, it'd be a lot easier transition because I know the game more, and especially a lot of Chinese people actually buy work in Japan, so it'd be a lot more easier. They're like, oh yeah, I've seen your work in Japan. Come to China. It'd be a lot easier. But as I can say, creativity in China is a lot different creativity in Japan, only because of social issues and other reasons, political reasons, where I don't want to get into depth right now, but later on. But I like to touch on it a bit. Not that I'm shy from talking about politics around the world, especially in Asia, and especially in China. It's just that for me, in order to have a constructive conversation about politics, you have to know the information first, not just like say what you feel and what your opinion is just because you live in China. I know a lot of people who live in China who think they know more than anybody else, but they really don't because they don't understand how everything else works around the world. If you look at history, there's a lot of things tied into reasons why China is now, not because of one issue. But back to China and Japan, I feel like I say the food is kind of the same, though Japan leans towards more to westernizing food. They tend to put more emphasis on westernization. They kind of take a lot of Western foods and kind of create their own identity. While China, it's more in depth with their tradition. Like when they deal with Western ideas, it's kind of like, okay, we embrace it for a bit, and we embrace it for a bit, but then we reject it. While Japan, they kind of embrace it and they kind of make it their own, and they make their own uniqueness out of it, which I really admire about the Japanese. And I feel like going to Japan, you feel more. It's more easier to transition, but at the same time, the one thing I noticed that between China and Japan is how people speak English. I would say this: Chinese people speak better English than Japanese people in Japan. Not that I say there's nothing wrong with that. Chinese people are more expressive when it comes to speaking English. And the Japanese are more conscious. They're more like, ooh, I don't want to make a mistake. They're a bit more shy when it comes to try to speak to you in English. So traveling in Japan can be quite of a challenge. But Japanese people are really helpful. They're very kind. They're very nice. They're very polite. They help you no matter what. When I first went to Japan, like 3 years ago, I was trying to find my hotel. And I just randomly walked up to this guy and I said, hey, I'm trying to look for my hotel. And the guy's like, oh, I know where this place is. And he literally, he walked me all the way to my hotel. And he said, okay. And he bowed and said, thank you very, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And then he walked back. And I was very shocked because I've never experienced that. Even America, Americans, Americans can be helpful, but sometimes they're not entirely helpful. I don't know. My experiences are they're not as heartwarming as I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe certain parts in America, but I know in Asia in general, people are very helpful. They're very nice. They're very kind, and they're very respectful. In America, it can be quite dodgy. I don't know. In Japan, they at least try to help you and say, okay, I don't know exactly where you are, but I can you just follow me and I'll take you to where. I mean, the guy could have probably had to go to work, or he probably had to go somewhere, but instead he said, no, I'll take you there. And that really opened my eyes to how Asian culture is compared to Western culture. And so I feel like, and China is a little different. China, it's a lot more mixed, in my opinion. While Japan has always been consistent, in China, it's a bit difficult. Some people might help you, some people don't. Some people just don't want to help you at all. Some people are quite rude. Sometimes they cut in front of you. Sometimes they do things that you don't like. Chinese people are kind of iffy. But my experiences overall in China have been positive and great. But there are a few instances in China where people could be quite rude. But rude people all over the world. It's not just China, It just happens that you're in a country filled with Asians where the magnitude of your problems become bigger only because you're the only foreigner there, or because you're a foreigner living in that country. I feel like those problems magnitude, or those situations magnitude. But I feel like Chinese people are more passionate. They can be more aggressive. They're more loud than Japanese people. Japanese people are more reserved, and they're more like quiet. They keep to themselves. Japanese people are just like, Chinese people are like in your face, or they tell you how they feel, or like, they cut in front of you, or they do things to you. And so that's why you can tell the difference. When I come back from Japan, I know there's a difference right away. There's like a huge stark difference between Chinese and the Japanese. But at the same time, they both have a lot of connections with one another. And in a strange historical events for most people who don't know, is the Chinese that actually had a lot of influence in Japan. A lot of the writing system, a lot of the cultural like the significance, a lot of even religion. Chinese people actually had a lot of influence. It's just now that Japan still has held on to those traditions longer and harder than the Chinese, but only because of circumstances. China has gone through a lot of phases. They've been through a lot of wars. They've been through a lot of issues where the country has changed a lot. Another difference is population. As you know, China has more people than Japan. And of course, recently, in the last couple of years, Japan's population has been declining a lot to the point where they're now like questioning, do we allow immigrants to work in this country? But both countries, China and Johnny country, Japan and China are actually one of the hardest countries in the world. I don't know, it might be other countries. I could be wrong. You can say, no, John, you're wrong. They're the very hardest countries in the world to immigrate to. I mean, even like China, there's no way you can immigrate. Why would you though? For many reasons. But Japan and China are very hard to immigrate into, and even to society, because they're kind of, I don't say this is xenophobia, but they're kind of all about their culture. They're all about their people. You know, there's like, we're Chinese, we keep it Chinese. We're Japanese, we keep it Japanese. It's not like in America where we're already an immigrant nation. Though people could say that an immigrant nation does fare better than a non-immigrant nation because of the turnover of people who can get employed. The population doesn't decrease, population stays intact. It's just all sorts of reasons why America can do what it can do, while Japan and China will probably struggle. And of course, I know in the future, China is actually struggling right now because of its elderly. China has a lot of elderly people, probably more elderly people than young people, for several reasons. And so China in the future will have to focus more on its elderly, which there's a lot of things like that. So, hey, Kevin, what's up? So, as I'm saying before, there are a lot of differences between China and Japan. Now, if you're thinking, well, which country should I work at? Well, it depends on your style of living. You know, if you love westernization and you love, you know, Western food and Western things, blah, 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 Japan's be more of your liking than China. You know, the argument is China is still a developing country. I say it's on its way to be a developed nation, but it's still developing in certain aspects. Not just like buildings and roads, and those are developed, but socially, economically, fundamentally, there's still a lot of development to happen. I mean, living in the States compared to living in China, hey, what's up, man? What's up? Living in Japan and living in China, working both sides, I would tend to lean more to Japan only because I always grew up more learning about Japanese culture than Chinese culture. I knew a lot about Chinese culture. I was always interested in Chinese culture, but I pulled more towards Japanese culture because of the music, because of the art, just because of significant people that I've admired who are Japanese. It was just only recently where I say, oh, I just come to China. And to be honest with you, I still think that is the greatest decision I've made so far in my life, is to come to China. Especially as an artist, despite the fact that creatively, it's kind of hard to be creatively in China. But I think not really. I feel like a lot of people always put obstacles in their way. They feel like, oh, I can't do this. But I feel like you will have obstacles, but I feel like those obstacles only make you more creative and it make you more hard worker and to achieve the things you want to achieve. So yes. But so food, there are similarities. Style of living, there are differences. Transportation, there are differences. Technology, well, China technically is going to take over Japan sooner or later. Somehow, they're you know, Huawei, they got the computers. I don't know. They're doing China's. I mean, believe it or not, China's got some great aspects. Especially, you know, little problems living in America. So much negativity about China. China sucks. Blah blah blah. You know, but people don't realize if you don't live in a country, you don't know. You know, if I lived in America, I probably would say some negative things about China too. And okay, don't get me wrong. There are some negative things that happen in China that are kind of true. But at the same time, Colin of Broadcaster, you the best. Thank you so much. Actually, Colin was supposed to come to Japan. He was supposed to. We chatted. That's all we got. That's all I'm gonna say. But I would love I would love to collaborate with him in the future. So give him a shout out. Say, yo, you and radio need to collab again. But me and him, we want to collaborate. And there's other YouTubers I love to collaborate to that I'm, just talking to. But I would love to. And of course, always Detmar, Simon, Alex, those guys collab for life. Uh, you know. So yes, I also like to be in other YouTubers. But yes, living in China has been a great experience for me. But like I said, China is not like the cornerstone of my channel. Is It's not the cornerstone of my channel. A lot of YouTubers just focus lots on China, like just China, China, China only. And for me, I'm Radio the Artist. Like I do art, I do music, I do everything. So I want to just throw it out there for people to see. I'm not just like, oh, just because I live in China, just be I want to do China only. And I've said this many times before. So I would talk a lot about China because that's where I live. But then I also would do other things that are more globally in depth, and it touches a lot more people. I don't want to just be a niche channel, because if you're a niche channel, you don't really grow as far. Look at the guys who have like 2 billion subscribers. Why are they 2 billion subscribers? Because they have done things that touches people in every aspect. Like Peter McKinnon, Casey Neistat. Which, by the way, I would love to work at that. Was it 386, 365? I don't know the name of his company. Be awesome to meet with him, collab. I have some interesting ideas that I would love to see happen. But yes. So, question is, what inspires you more, Japan or China, as far as art goes? I would lean towards more Japan, simply because I've always been familiar as a kid growing up with Japanese culture. But I will say that China is slowly have become more of an inspiration as well because I live there, or live here. So I'm kind of pulling things from both aspects, from different worlds. China and Japan are actually two different worlds, believe it or not, despite them sharing similarities in traditions and similarities in culture. I think China right now is the helm of most of my creativity. And despite social media and it's hard to be, it's actually kind of good for me that I could stay away from Facebook. I'm on YouTube and Instagram a lot, but because of VPN. But but it's cool because I can just hide and incubate and come up with ideas in a nice quiet space, and nobody knows where I'm at. I'm pretty sure there's people who now discovering, well, you live in China. I still got friends and family. They're like, wow, you're in China. I didn't know that. You guys didn't look for me. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes your friends or family don't check up on you. They until they hear somebody, oh, you're in China. I was like, yeah. You didn't know? You didn't care about me? So China right now is kind of the helm of my creativity. But Japan, I lean towards more because of my familiarity with the culture. Growing up, watching Akira Kurosawa films, watching a lot of Studio Ghibli films, getting a lot of manga from Shonen Jump, even music. I've always been a huge fan of J-pop and even jazz that Japanese artists did in Japan. So I've always been so into that. And of course, hip hop, my love of hip hop, they always reference Japanese culture. So I've always been indebted with that. But now that I'm in China, I realize, there's a other side to other Asian cultures. And not just China. I mean, I've been to Vietnam, I've been to Malaysia. I've been to, I haven't been to Thailand yet. But those countries and those areas also inspire me as well. As of right now, Asia is my inspiration. Until I travel in Europe next year. I mean, I'll still be in China, but traveling in Europe next year, where I can get more in depth and study more and learn more about other aspects of art, be great. So yes, someone asked me, they went away, what do I do in my spare time? Well, what I do in my spare time is basically I paint, I travel, do photography, I do videos for YouTube, hang out with some friends, I read, I watch a lot of films, watch a lot of movies, TV shows that I download. That's it pretty much. So, the misconception, people say, oh, you're an English teacher in China. Like, that's all you do? But people don't realize that just because you're an English teacher doesn't mean that doesn't stop you from doing other things. And I highly suggest people who come to China, yes, become an English teacher, but make sure you come with some other purpose and goal. Not just, I'm just going to be an English teacher. Like I had an art show in Japan. See, there you go. So you always want to find a hobby or something that you're really passionate about, and just dive into it. Especially because you have a lot of free time. So for me, my main focus is focusing on my artistry. Focus on that, and also focus on as an art teacher. When you have both going hand to hand, then that's good. That means you're busy, you're focused, you're making money. You have that money going into your passion, and then you have a revolving door of interesting things you could do. And sometimes the school that you work for sees that you're a photographer. You see that you're doing videos, and they might pay you more for your skill. Maybe they will probably use you, and not use you, but they might use your talent in a way to help the school. And so there might be some opportunities in the future. So that's how I think. Maybe because that's how I always thought. Just because you're doing something doesn't mean that you can't do anything else. Always stay focused, find something you're passionate about, and just do it. So, would you ever live in the States again? As of right now, no. Simply because I'm enjoying what I'm doing now here. Eventually, one day I will go back to the States. But for right now, I'm focused on what I'm doing here. And this is new for me. And I am enjoying what's happening here. And of course, once... what we have going on in the States, it's just nothing happening for me. And what I find interesting, people back home have said the same thing. Like you're doing fine back where you are right now. Like, why would you come back? And they seem that I'm doing wonderful here. Where did you used to live? I lived in North Carolina. North Carolina is where I'm from. Kernersville, K Vegas, Winston-Salem, Trefo. From North Carolina, yes. But I have like 4 places I call home. North Carolina is where I was born and raised, so that's my home. My second home is the Bronx, New York. BX baby. These is Zamiro. Shout out. Bronx. My grandmother used to live. How's it going, man? Just got here. What's up, Prime in China? So my grandmother used to live not far from the old Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, before they tore it down and made it to like some sort of empty field. I don't know what it is now because I haven't been back in like 5 years. The last time I went, my other grandmother passed away. But New York is my second home. My third home, I would say, of course, Japan now. Japan and China are like the 2 other homes that I call now. So North Carolina, New York, Tokyo, Japan, and of course China, where I'm at. Those are like my 4 places. I will also throw Florida in there. I used to go to Florida a lot as a kid. But Florida is just... I like Florida. But too many crazies live there. I tend to like New York more than North Carolina because, I don't know, when I was a kid, my cousins, my aunts lived there. And I always loved the culture, especially being Latino. The music, the food, the atmosphere was so great. And plus, all of my wild stories come from going to New York, living there for summers, and witnessing and seeing a lot of interesting stuff. Stuff that I like, how did I see that? So I always call New York my second home. And so like when I come back to the States, it'll be the first place I visit. It's back to the States. Especially my uncle, and all that. And probably maybe I would love to do an art show there. Maybe have an exhibit there, and maybe do a mural there as well in New York. Hopefully by then, in 2 years time, I want to do something big there. Once I try to establish, I have a lot of goals I'm trying to achieve, and I'm like aiming at it, working hard at it, pushing through. And so like uh, I feel like this YouTube channel is a good way for me to like showcase all I can do. Um, I'm and like I feel like that's a good thing, because a lot of people want to see that, and a lot of things I like to discuss about. So I do these live and directs because it's a good opportunity for you to chat with you guys and just express how I feel, what I think, but also communicate and talk to you guys, come back and forth. From like ideas, what you want me to shoot, to like how do I feel about certain things, and of course I still go back to doing blogging, just stuff that I do. So yes, I think you need to drop a freestyle. Oh no, no, I'm not dropping no freestyle, man. I did that already. No freestyle for me. Maybe next time, but not today. Yes, freestyle. Actually, I'm still my bandmate's still in America. Actually, he's in London now, I think. So hopefully when he gets back, I'll drop some new music on here. So I hope that it all works out well. But I'm pretty excited to do that. So yeah. But so right now, I feel like right now my main goals is I won't travel much for a while till October maybe. Um, I won't go back to Japan for a while because I've been there like twice already this year. I'm done for a bit. My main goal right now is aim for Europe. I've been looking at tickets lately, so I will probably travel there next year. Uh, do a tour of Europe, Germany, France, those places, and try to establish up there as well. Try to get everything working out, establishing, meeting people, recreating my network, and not just recreating in a way like, oh, I'm just here, I need to make new networking, but I'm trying to extend my networking. Because when I lived in America, I was like, what about South America? Actually, it's an interesting story. I my first job I was offered to be a teacher was in Brazil. But for some reason, like the opportunity to send my application was, I'm headed to Medellin. Ah, that's nice. Uh, my opportunity to send I don't know why the pay wasn't so right. So I was like, I wasn't really happy. And Brazil is actually quite dangerous. It's more dangerous than China is. I mean, I don't know now, but I thought China was more interesting for me. And plus, I was closer to Japan. So I planned it all out. I figured it all out. So I was like, no South America for me. It was that in Venezuela, actually. Venezuela, too. I actually had a job offer in Venezuela. Venezuela, of course, we all know Venezuela situation. So I'm glad I dodged the bullet, literally and figuratively. So, and I thought China was more interesting, and the pay was much better in China. And I think the opportunities were probably more in China than it is in South America as of right now. And it's ironically a lot of people who come to China are from South America. So, the writing was on the wall. The man upstairs said, "Hey, you need to come here," and it all worked out because the people I've met and the things I've seen, the things I've done, things I've accomplished so far. If I would have said, "Nah, I'm not coming to China. I'm just gonna stick to America," or whatever, I don't know, would have not happened. For me, I feel like sometimes you just have to just take a leap of faith and see where it goes. And sometimes it's all about timing. It really is all about timing. Most people say, oh, it's not about time, it's about luck. To me, I think it is about timing. Because you know that, what age were you when you really became interested in travel culture type of stuff? Actually, high school. When I was like when I was in high school, I was interested in traveling and learning about culture. Actually, since I'm a little kid, some people might think I'm still a kid, but when I was a little kid, a long time ago, when I was a little boy, I always been interested in traveling culture. I remember when I was a little kid, I always talked to my parents about like, oh, I want to travel to like Europe, and I want to do this, and I wanted to be an actor, or I wanted to do something cool, and my parents were like, especially my grandmother, she'll laugh and she'll like, okay, whatever. You tell these stories to your parents, and like, yeah, okay, yeah, you traveling, okay, haha, cool. You always gonna be here forever. And my parents were like that too. Their parents were like, oh, you okay, whatever. And when I was in high school, I always wanted to because I felt like there was more to see. Growing up in North Carolina, I love North Carolina. Uh, that's true, yeah. When I growing up in North Carolina, like I love North Carolina, but North Carolina is just, especially where I live in Kernersville, it's a small town, backwards a little bit, and especially living in the South, and not many people like really um, understand where you're coming from. And I've always been, I mean, I know this is like a violent tale, I guess, but I feel like I've always been different where I'm from, and I've always seen things differently than most people. Simply because I don't know, in my mind, my heart, I felt like there's a world bigger than where I live, and I feel like sometimes, I wanted just to get out and see something different. And it was funny and interesting too. When I was in high school, I told all my classmates like, "Yeah, man, I want to travel to Japan when I graduate high school." And my friends like, "Really? That's cool." Something like, "Yeah, whatever." Yeah, no, whatever. And then like what, 10 years later, actually 10 years to the date, almost 10 years later, um, I had my first art show in Japan. Of course, I've been to Japan years prior to that, but it's so cool. It's so nice to see. It's so crazy to see how the things that you think about and the things that you want to accomplish. Most people don't think about that. That's why, like, if you ever meet like musicians and like famous musicians and famous artists who were like ridiculed through their lifetime, and then now like when they're dead, they're like, oh my gosh, like Michael Jackson, he was ahead of his time. Like his albums are like leaping forward, bounce. But at that time, people don't understand it because people only live for the moment. It's just like Chinese people in China. They only live for the moment. They don't really see past, beyond it. They don't have a present, past, or future. It's all about now. It's about living in the now. And yes, they want to stay in the box. But for me, I hate living in the box because, I'd rather make a box or make other things out of the box and then give it to somebody else, or just don't care about the box. The world is not two-dimensional. The world is four-dimensional or six-dimensional. I don't know. Going to some Neil Tyson, Degrassi, whatever terminology here. In the cosmos. In the cosmos, we're all dust from stars. And then within those stars, we are planets. I don't know. I like to meet him though. Actually, Neil deGrasse Tyson, or Neil Tyson deGrasse. He reminds me of my uncle. He looks like my uncle. A much larger version of my uncle. Because my uncle also talks like that too. He's like this, who works at Google, by the way. And like he's just I don't know, it's just hearing him reminds me of my uncle because like he's very intelligent. He speaks out of, he says a lot of things that I like. Wow, I really love. And he makes me enjoy science a lot. And so I feel like people who are like me, who want to travel, who want to see something different, who want to get out of the box, you should just do it. Don't let nobody hold you back. And so like now that I think about it, which I shouldn't think about it because you got to keep moving forward, it's that imagine if I just became like everybody else. Just, I'm not going to travel. I'm not going to do things. And it's true. I mean, I don't know the statistics, but in America, people don't ever travel out the country. Like a rare few people ever travel now. Though I find it interesting now, especially Facebook. So I hate Facebook sometimes. You have people who now like, oh, now they're traveling. Like I remember when I came to China, like nobody came. None of my people on Facebook been to China. And then when I went to China, like a year later, like two people like messaged me, hey man, like I heard you teaching in China. How do you do that? Like, and these people never liked me and never talked to me. First of all, why you have people on Facebook don't like you? I don't know. It's a long story, but oh, China. Oh, cool. So like half my classmates They're on China, didn't like it, of course. Or like, oh, I'm traveling now too. I was like, oh, okay, you guys didn't do that till I did it. And these are the same people who like say, oh, you're not gonna do that, you're not gonna do this. But I guess maybe sometimes that happens. Sometimes, like, in order for other people to do what you're doing, I feel like sometimes people who don't have the fire to do it, once they see somebody else do it, like, oh wow, he did it. Okay, I'm more inspired to do it, and it's okay for me. Um, they always say, "Oh, I thought it would be really." No, I mean, like I said before, like people always have their assumptions about a country, but if you don't come and see for it, you don't see what it's like, you don't know. To be honest with you, I never had actually any negative things about Chinese culture or about China. I've always, to be honest with you, I've always thought positively about China. I didn't know in depth about its history because I didn't, to be honest, I just didn't care for it. Sorry. I didn't care for it. And I was focused on it. Were you scared to fly that far for the first time? No, actually, I wasn't. Which is the weird thing, right? I wasn't scared. Actually, I've been flying since I was a kid. Actually, I'm the only member of my family that actually like flown. Well, besides my father. But like when I was like 6 and 7, I used to fly a lot with my grandmother, especially to the Dominican Republic, because my father's from the Dominican Republic, and so I went to visit my great grandmother, bless her soul. She passed away a long time ago, like in the 90s. Actually, she was like almost 100 when she passed. So flying didn't bother me. Actually, Dominican Republic was the first country I ever flew to as a kid. So actually, the first country I flew outside the United States. So for me, I never was afraid to fly. The only thing I hate is just the whole ear thing. My ears, I have bad ears, I guess. But it's like, it really hurts. That's one thing I hate about flying, is the whole ear popping and the elevation. But other than that, I'm not fear of flying. I love flying. If anything, I'm better. But sometimes trains are better, especially in China. Actually, I regret not taking the train to come back to where I live because of the delays. The one thing I would say about China versus Japan, it's about timeness. China tends to be late on everything. Japan, they're always on time. Everything. Somebody told me the reason why China, there's a lot more air delays in China. I don't know about America. It's because the Chinese military owns 90% of the airspace. So and domestic flights, they get kind of shoveled in the back. So the international flights get first dibs. But if you're a domestic flight, like if you're flying from like Chengdu to like, I don't know, Xiamen, you will have a delay. Especially the military's like, no, we're doing this testing thing, you can't fly. So I didn't know that because every time I fly in China, there's always an air delay. It's always a delay, always. And I was kicking myself because I like taking the train. If I'm doing domestic thing, I always try to just take the train. I mean, it's almost the same price, a little bit longer, but trains tend to be more on time. Actually, they're always on time compared to flying. But I was like, nah, I'll take the plane because there's no problem. Yeah, 5-hour delay, and then they delay everybody's flight, not just mine. They delay everybody who's flying, and then these people who were on the plane, they kicked them out, and the flight was terminated. And of course, China, where Chinese people get angry, it's like Black Friday in America. People kicking, screaming, throwing chairs. Not really, not throwing chairs, but people were very angry. And this young kid who, I guess he started working that day. I think he started working that day. He was just getting shellacked by like everybody, especially this Chinese woman. She was just like screaming at him and like just shouting at him. And the boy was just like, ah shit, like I came the wrong time today. I should have called out. I think he quit that day too. But it's quite interesting. So yes, Japan always on time. Trains always on time. Flight always on time. Everything on time. Always on time. China delays everything. Even taxis. China, they always drop you off in the wrong place. Like, I need to go to Walmart, and they're like, Is this the no? Not that's not Walmart. That's 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 Adidas store. I so bear in mind, timeless in China is all about their time. If you're not on their time, then you're never gonna be on time. So I feel like if you come to China and Japan and travel to Japan, bear in mind, the timeless in both countries. Though I will still say China is still better in terms of like the convenience of transportation than Japan. Though I would say Japan is also convenient too, but taxis in Japan are too expensive. They're nice. They're like the coolest taxis on the planet, but they're expensive. Actually, I've never taken a taxi in Japan, which I should have. Maybe next time I'll do that. My next video, I should do that. I should take a taxi in Japan. They look fancy. Like the guy comes out and the door automatically opens and he's like, hey, Japan, China, like you just get an old busted down Volkswagen, like with like one hubcap. And then like the guy is speeding through traffic, almost hitting pedestrians. While in Japan, like the taxi drivers, they're like courteous. They let old ladies pass by the street, and the taxis look prestigious. Like they just came straight out the factory like 25 years ago. So, Japanese people tend to be more, and especially in Japan, generally, they are really anal about keeping things prestigious. They keep things clean. They keep things organized. That's why, like, if you ever buy things from the used market, always buy from Japan. Like, especially like watches, cameras, electronics. If you want to find like a 1980s Walkman, buy it straight from Japan. It's gonna be fresh out the box, like it just came from the factory. They keep things very organized. What about the girls? What? I knew someone's gonna ask that question. Who's better, Chinese girls or Japanese girls? Well, I've never dated a Japanese girl, so I can't really tell you. Though I've heard stories that Japanese girls are more. I don't know. They're more. I don't know. I don't really want to say anything because I don't know. I will pass that question. I would say this, that I mean dating Asian women is a different experience for me. Maybe because of traditions, maybe because of how culture is. I would say that no, it's okay. Sorry I had to go there. It's okay. It's all right. It's no big deal. It's not a problem. I would say this: Chinese, and Japanese girls, like just Asian women in general, just bear in mind that you are dealing with traditions and cultures that will clash with your culture. Somebody just left. Oh, I don't want to hear about this no more. And so there are going to be some differences where it will make you like pull your hair, like why? And then there's some things that in the culture that you feel like, wow, this is amazing. And it's a lot different than women in America. I would say this: dating in America for me was tragic. It was a tragic. I know some women probably watching this from America, like, yeah, it's tragic. It's horrible. I don't know why. Maybe because my experiences. I can't speak on other people's experiences. Because people go through different things, but I say dating women in America is a lot more different than it is in Asia. I would emphasize on the caring. Asian women are more caring, more understanding, and for me, I know like I don't have like this thing where like, oh, I wanted to date Asian women like in America. I was open minded to everybody, dating anyone, black, white. Anyone. I didn't have like a particular group of people, like most Asians. Not all most Asians, but most people. Most people, I only date black girls, I only date Asian women, I only date white people, blah blah blah. I don't care. And plus being biracial, I'm always open minded to different types of people, types of women. Because at the end of the day, women just people women, if you just get to know them and understand who they are, you don't never know. We all have to just let go of like this whole like, well, I only date this particular people. Just be open minded. So to answer your question, who is better? Depends what you like. It depends on what you want to emphasize more time getting to know. Overall, I would say that Asian women, especially if you from like coming from these main countries, there are going to be lots of differences and lots of similarities. But if you're open minded and you appreciate just people for just being people, I think it'll be okay. Um, you know, overall, I would just say that just being relationships, period, just tend to be complicated anyway. Loving somebody is already complicated enough. It shouldn't be that complicated at all just because of something else. Um, so yes, um, I would say this in China though. In China in general, I feel like when I've been here for the last couple of years, the younger generation, they are becoming more open minded when it comes to dating cultures, with the dating in general, compared to their older generation. Because of social media and because of, now they can, they have a lot more access to information. Um, so like I know the big question is, well, there's Chinese people, they black people. I know there's a YouTuber. I don't know his name. I don't know. I forgot the guy's name. I don't know what's his name. I don't want to say his name, but I don't know. But there's a YouTuber who has a Chinese. He's a black guy who dates a Chinese woman, and he always goes, "Well, Chinese people are racist," and blah blah blah. I disagree with that 100% because not all Chinese people are like that. I don't think they're racist. They just don't understand black culture. But I've been in Wenzhou for 4 years almost, and I know plenty of Chinese women who are actually married and have children with black guys. Um, and they have a wonderful relationship. It's not difficult. I mean, well, it is can be quite challenging, and it can be quite, complicated. But at the end of the day, man, when it comes to like two people who love each other, that always prevails. It's gonna be difficult still, but parents need to understand that if their daughter loves somebody, it has to be respected. If not, then they really don't care about their child. They only care about themselves, which normally is the case. Some parents can be quite selfish. Like, oh, it's about our family. It's about us. But what about your child? Your child is the one that needs to be happy. It's the child that needs to be. That's her life. She's the one that wants to live her life the way she wants to live it. If you can't accept that, then you can't accept yourself as parents. You need to rethink your life. Go to a park. Go to many parks in China. Hold hands and think about your life. Is my child's happiness more important than my happiness? Unfortunately, that's usually the case. Parents' happiness is more important than the girl's happiness, and that doesn't end up happily. But I know foreigners in China who married and date, not just black or white. Um, it all works out in the end. It usually does. It's all about conversation. Where did you get started at? I started when I got started 5,000 years ago. When I was a young lad, I was young lad. Actually, I've been watching a lot of British comedy lately. I started watching this thing called Only Fools and Horses. I don't know if anyone's watched that, but I got some interesting co-workers feeding me some interesting British comedy, not just Mr. Bean, but yes. Where I started, I mean, in China, I was at another city in China before I came to Wenzhou. I forgot the name though. It's not far. It's in Jiangsu province near Shanghai. I would like to work in Shanghai, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's usually like the norm. Like, oh, let's go to Shanghai. All the foreigners go to Shanghai. I don't know. I always find like the foreigners who actually stayed in China a long time and like who are not from Shanghai. I don't know. They're more interesting people than who just stay in Shanghai forever. Not all people though. There are some people in Shanghai are cool that I know. But Shanghai is not really. Shanghai is cool, but I always think that Shanghai is kind of like the safe place for people who come to China. It's like, okay, I'm going to Shanghai, but you are cool, and then yeah, they know all about Chinese culture, but they just only been in Shanghai. It's like, I get that a lot though. I know some people too who from Shanghai. They know everything about Chinese, like the Hao Chi thing. Hao Chi means displeasure and all that, but I mean Hao Chi means delicious. But then everybody's like, no. But this person thinks they know everything about Chinese culture. Like I know everything about Chinese culture. You know. Mhm. You know, I'm from Shanghai. We're better than you. But but okay. But you know about Wenzhou? What's Wenzhou? They're afraid to travel out in the bubble. That's true. But that's it's funny though. That's weird. Like how people go from a bubble, they go to another bubble. Like I don't know how that works. And it's like 60 minutes and 28 seconds. Somebody's gonna be like, wow, this is too long. I'm sorry. I better get mass subscribers from this though. Yeah, you always get that. You always get people who are like, I'm going to a bubble, to another bubble. Like, what's the point? Let's just stay in your other bubble. Just stay in your original bubble. What's the whole point? You're just wasting your time. I've been to Shanghai. I like Shanghai, but I actually feel more interested in going places like I don't know, like Kyrgyzstan, somewhere far, like interesting places. I don't know. I just love interesting, like old. I don't say old China because it's not much of old China, but like I like Hong Kong. I love Hong Kong. I think Hong Kong is more interesting than Shanghai. That's just my opinion. Or like Guangzhou, or like Guangzhou, like the Guangdong province. I think that area is interesting itself. Or or like going to places like even just traveling to other parts of Asia, like Vietnam. I've been to Vietnam. I think Vietnam's more interesting than Shanghai. Go to Ho Chi Minh, or Hanoi. Those places are quite interesting. So I feel like if you're gonna come to China, please just travel other places. Oh, by the way, shout out to the Ray the artist shirt. Square dude. So like I feel like come to China, travel as many places as you can. Please. Please just travel to many places. And that's the one thing about China versus Japan. Okay, Japan you have, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, you have Osaka, you have Hokkaido, which I still haven't been to yet. I was gonna go to Hokkaido at Spring Festival, and they had like the snow festival thing, and I missed it. Japan has a lot of cool, interesting cities and prefectures to go to, but China has a more array of different things to see, an array of cultures to see, compared to Japan because of size. It all comes down to size and demographics. And so you're so many things to see and so many things to do in China. If you're gonna just go stay in Shanghai, you're wasting your time. Okay, maybe you go to Guilin, and maybe you go to like somewhere in Guangzhou, but that's it. Like I can name all the places I've been to: Wenzhou, Hangzhou, Shanghai, Xiamen, Hong Kong. Even like the little area like Lishui, parts of Jiangsu province, Suzhou. I mean, I can name every place. I haven't been to Xiamen though. I haven't been to like Guilin and all those places. I should though. Tibet. Oh, I mean, I forgot the other place, the actual name of it. Taiwan. Different places like that. Of course, I don't want to get in detail what I just said before, but yes, that place. Oh, but yes, Sapporo and Hokkaido. Yes, I would like to go there. Maybe I will go next time, but it's gonna be a while. And it's actually quite expensive. For some reason, it's very expensive to fly to Hokkaido from China. I don't know why. It's like the most expensive flight. I don't know. Maybe it's their airport is small, not international. I don't know. But every time I try to get a ticket from Shanghai to, it's expensive. It's like twice. It's like I don't know. It's like 2 months salary. I don't know why it's expensive. So basically, the goal for me is just fly to Tokyo and then take a train. Like there's a train that you could go through to go to Hokkaido or Sapporo. I would love to go because I love snow. But I did get to see snow in Japan for the first time in a long time, so it's pretty cool. We're like 2 hours almost. This is like the longest one I've done. I hope my watch time goes up though. 5 hours. I hate that YouTube be killing me, man. I have like videos and like I got my watch time has gotten better, but it's not the best. I don't know, like, and I thought like my live and direct videos, like if I do too much time, it doesn't get many likes. Like many people don't like it. It's like this is too long. Can you talk about other things? So I really should keep it on topic because this is ridiculous. So yes, but I guess maybe I should start to go now. Maybe not. I don't know. It depends on the people. It's only two people. So yes, China versus Japan, or Japan versus China. Who will win in that battle? So overall, my end thoughts of this live and direct is that China and Japan offer different things, and they offer many array of things that you might like and might dislike about both countries. But I would truly say that Asia in general is probably the most unique place in the world where you come to see different rates of culture, food, and people, or people that's in culture. I don't know. So don't be afraid to come out in Asia. Hopefully, I mean, even though I still have a lot more to explore in Asia, I'm still also interested in Europe because I'm close to Europe. So just travel this side of the hemisphere, basically. Screw America for now, until we get a better president. So don't be afraid to travel to places here. Don't be afraid to get out of your bubble. Not only just to go to another bubble, because most people do that. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna get out of my bubble. And they go to another bubble, and then they just stay stuck. Don't do anything. Just because you're an English teacher in China doesn't mean that you can't do anything else as well. I'm an English teacher in China, but I've done amazing stuff while I'm here. So, don't be afraid to travel other parts outside of China as well. Only just to see the differences between where you live in different countries. I know a lot of people say that traveling, I believe that traveling is a good way for people to open their minds. It's a good way to learn about different cultures, learn about different people, and actually see firsthand how it is. Because most people think, oh, traveling is just blah, blah, blah. You just travel, and explore something different. Be more culturally aware to your people and to everybody, because if you don't, you never know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, if I never came to China, I would have not experienced the things I've experienced and done the things I've done. I still have a lot more things I need to do. There's a lot of things I still haven't really accomplished yet. And it's only because certain obstacles. But I think that's normally the case for me in most things. We have obstacles that we just need to just break through. And oh yeah, and that's all of it. Today's my birthday too. So shout out to me. I'm 29 today. Not 30 yet. Don't want to be. Not yet. I don't want to be 30. I don't want to turn that age yet. I want to stay young forever. And I want to stay young for the rest of my life. But I guess that's the inevitable, right? I guess we all have to get old someday. I don't want to be, but it has to. I guess that's normal. I have to accept that. So yes. So if you're watching this video, if you made it to the very end of this if you made it to the very end of this video, thank you for being a trooper. And tell other people about this channel. And hit that notification bell. And share this video and share this channel, because I'm almost at 600. Should have 6,000 by now. I have 600, almost 600 subscribers. And hopefully we can meet again. Well, don't say hopefully. I'm actually working on another video on Avengers of Japan Part 2, or Part 3, I guess. And I will continue vlogging and directs. Because for me, yes, I could do vlogging and I could do other things like that. But I think these live and direct videos are a good way to connect with my fans, even if it's 1, 2, 4, or 1,000, or 1,000,000. And it's a good way for me to connect and to show you guys that, I'm not just doing videos. I wanted to talk to you people and get to know you guys. And I think it creates a deeper fan base. And I think it creates more of an appreciation. Show people that oh wow, he's actually trying to connect. He's actually trying to tell his story. And he's trying to be more personal. And it makes it more unique. And then watch. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of YouTubers right now that probably I know and you guys know that's like gonna do the same thing. Watch, there's gonna be some YouTubers. And I'm doing a live chat too. Watch, there's gonna be some. I know some right now. I'm probably thinking of an idea. So, but I think it's good. I'm not a Boogie, whatever his name is, Boogie something. I like his channel though. He's a great guy. I think he's amazing. I think he has an awesome story to tell. I think we all go through phases. We all have similar stories like he has, and whatnot. I'm not a Boogie. I don't have 2.5 million, but who cares? You know, we all gotta start somewhere. So on that note, don't ever give up on yourself, and remember, always believe in yourself. And please share this channel, because if not, I know where you live. Nah, I'm just joking. But peace. Ah, dang it.